Hello everyone, welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm arts and entertainment host Ava Gaudette. Happy Tuesday, here we are again, the 3 o'clock hour. We're talking about all things arts, entertainment, fun, good stuff. Excited about my lineup today, so I'm going to just jump right in. My first guest is this wonderful woman, Rosalind Hart. Hello.
Hello, gorgeous.
She is the writer and director for Chefs, a Sizzling Showdown, a new tour that's coming to the vets this weekend. It is such a fun concept. Can't wait to talk to you about this, Rosalind. They are calling this a cross between Magic Mike and Iron Chef. You're like
That's
two
very
awesome
fair.
things. You might as well put them together. Tell us a little bit about the concept of the show and how you created it.
So basically, the concept is exactly as you said. It's Iron Chef meets Magic Mike. So it's hosted by a celebrity chef named Patrick Wilde, who was a former stripper.
Okay.
And he opened his first restaurant with the money he earned from stripping. Since then, it's been, 10 years since he came off the pole, as he calls it.
Okay.
And he has started a culinary empire. He owns 10 restaurants around the world. He has a reality TV show in the UK. And he's opening a new restaurant in Las Vegas this year. And he's on a search to find the chef for this celebrity restaurant. And to give back to the community he came from, he's allowing male strippers who are aspiring chefs to compete to become chef at his restaurant. So it's a tournament with a series of escalating culinary challenges.
Okay.
And chef wins the challenge, very much Iron Chef style. If a chef wins the challenge, he gets to go into Chef Patrick's pantry and choose the mystery ingredient for the next challenge. It could be anything from eggplant to alligator.
Okay.
But losing chefs have to strip, and they lose an article of clothing during that strip number. And Chef Patrick, being a former stripper, all of the numbers are really highly choreographed, like Magic meets Broadway meets Iron Chef numbers. And so, it's not just like, okay, I lost, I take off my shirt now.
Right. It's an event.
Amazing. Very often with audience members on stage for that. This is one of the most, I've got a history of writing interactive shows, but this one, we have 25 audience members on stage. Audience members are pulled on stage to help the chefs cook, to judge the different challenges, to help the chefs out with their dances, to make sure olive oil is going in the right places.
Great. Yeah.
So it's really amazing from start to finish. It's an amazing girls' night out. It's an amazing couples night out. It's just exciting and hilarious and sexy and dangerous from start to finish. These guys have sharp knives. They're doing things with them. They're dancing. They're flipping. They're cooking. It's a lot going on all in one show.
That was the first thing that came to my mind is, oh, that sounds dangerous. I don't want to ever cook naked. Someone could get burned. I don't know. Something bad could happen. Has anyone gotten hurt so far? They are professionals, yeah.
They are professionals. They're professional male entertainers, and they're trying to become professional cooks, but they definitely have skills in the kitchen and on the pole and on the dance floor. So we make sure everybody's safe. If there's an audience member on stage, they're not doing anything that's unsafe. But when it's just the 5 of them on stage together, things get a little dangerous, and they're very competitive. There's a lot of testosterone flying around that room.
I imagine. So none of this is planned, right? Every performance, I imagine, if it's interactive, is going to be different.
So they know what they need to do, where they need to stand. They know where their stations are, but they don't know what Chef Patrick is going to pull on them. And he's sadistic in his own little way. He also wants to make sure that his chefs can handle any situation that might come up in a professional kitchen. So sometimes he's in the middle of a challenge and he's like, you know what? Surprise challenge. It's going to be this now. And, sometimes a chef might have won a challenge, but maybe a chef made too big of a mess while winning that challenge. And that chef is going to have to what?
Take something off.
Take it off. Every time Chef Patrick tells a chef he's not fit for his clothing, it's then the audience job to shout, take it off. And the whole audience is screaming the whole time. Everyone in that audience, whether you get pulled on stage or not, you are participating the whole time. You're judging on presentation. You're voting for your favorite chef. There might be things that you have to throw to the stage. I don't want to ruin the surprises, but I will say the most interactive show I've ever written. And it's a really fun night out. Just know, though, that if you do sit close, Chef Patrick might pull you on stage.
Oh, my goodness. So it's sort of like, you know, if that's what you're into, get that close seat. But if you're afraid,
yeah,
sit back somewhere. So do people get to actually taste the food? Are these kind of chef dancers?
Yeah, if you're pulled on stage, you will be judging on taste.
Okay.
If you're a taster. So if you're in your seat, you're judging on the presentation. If you're on stage, you're judging on taste and texture. Sometimes you'll be judging on a chef's chopping technique. So yeah, I mean, it's very much they're doing stuff, and you're gonna get to taste it. I don't think anybody's really coming for the food, though.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
Maybe the body dessert. No, but you know, I think it's great because if you are a foodie, there's something in it for you. But if you're just there because you want this magic mic, but taken to the next level show, you know, we didn't want to create a show that was like a typical Vegas male review show. We wanted to create something special, and Chef Patrick, being a former stripper, didn't want to create a boring cooking show. He wanted to create a dangerous, fun, sexing cooking show, which is what his new restaurant in Las Vegas will be. It will be a full-service dining experience from start to finish.
I imagine cooking and choreography all in one. Yeah. Yes.
And these guys are all amazing, you know, because they are male entertainers. Everything they do on stage has an artistry to it. They're not just making a cocktail. They're making a cocktail while juggling cocktail shakers and things like that. So it makes it taste better too.
So what was the process like for finding these chefs who are going to compete? Was it like, you know, you have to be a male performer that can also cook a little? What was that audition process or tryout process like?
Thank you. Chef Ryan.
Oh, hi, Chef Ryan. We were just talking about you.
So, right.
Yeah.
Nothing but good things, right?
In a way, of course.
Is one of our 5 contenders. You know, we narrowed it down from thousands of, thank you, Ryan. Back to the pole with you. Practice your dance.
Exactly.
So yeah, he's amazing. So thousands of male strippers applied, desperate to get off the pole and into the pantry, because the winner is going to get a job at Chef. He's going to become basically Chef Patrick's apprentice chef, who will eventually take over that restaurant. And the starting salary is $100,000 a year. So the stakes are high. So we've narrowed it down to our top 3, and there's 2 alternates as well. But it's going to be, and Ryan is one of our top 3. We'll be facing off head to head at that.
Amazing.
Really excited.
Amazing. So I imagine with a tour like this is the first time this show is actually going to be toured across the country. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you guys excited about how it will be received? I mean, Yeah,
I'm really excited because, you know, I grew up in a small town. I live in New York City now, but I grew up in a small town. And when shows like this would come to my town, which is like, you know, a New York level show, I don't think a show like this has ever been done before, but the level, you know, of artistry and entertainment is very big. So I think cities are going to be excited about it. I also think, you know, it's a fun night out, and it's a night out where men are celebrating their bodies and they're celebrating sensuality. These guys know how to cook and they know how to dance, and it's a very different sort of a man than we're used to seeing. These guys are truly Renaissance men in that way. You know, they have trained as dancers. They all come from a traditional dance background, but also a very sensual dance background. They have been training as cooks. They're learning. They're in there, and they're now like learning how to do flips on a pole, but also how to, you know, chop an onion with fast precision. So these men, they really want to, you know, evolve in the way that Chef Patrick did. Chef Patrick's background was, he was actually a principal ballet dancer when he was very, very young. And then when you get older, you know, you start pushing 21, no one wants you to play the Nutcracker Princess.
That's right. So you gotta start paying those bills.
And, you know, stripping's cute. He says it. He's like, you know, stripping's cute when you're in your 20s, but when you're pushing 30, lads, TikTok, time to get off the pole and into the pantry. He became a chef, you know? And so it's about evolution, and the tournament evolves. You know, the skill level gets higher, the stakes get higher. And so I think it's a very powerful message for the audience. Sure, it's funny. Sure, it's entertaining. Sure, it's sexy. But it's about, you know what? It's never too late to change your life. It's never too late to take your game to the next level. And every night is an excuse to have a party, eat good food, celebrate your body, and dance, you know, and have a wonderful, wonderful time. And at the end of the show, everybody's up dancing together. And that's something I really, really love. And in a way, everyone in that theater is coming together to create a beautiful meal. And I think that eating together and dancing together and laughing together are things that we as a society don't do enough. So I'm really excited to be able to create that kind of night and that kind of connection between the audience and the performers.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, those kinds of TV shows that we are kind of referencing for this show, those kind of competition type of shows, are sort of mindless fun, but you definitely appreciate the competitive nature and the fact that these people are, you know, bringing something creative to the table. So it is kind of nice. It seems like this show is more of a celebration than an objectification of these men. It definitely sounds like it's more of a fun time.
Exactly. And it is, you know, saying, you know what, I don't just have to be a cook. I don't just have to be a male stripper. I'm somebody else. And I think you're going to learn about these guys as the show goes on too, who they are as humans. And it's really exciting, and it's something different. It's not, you know, I love entertaining shows, but I kind of hate when I go to a show and it's just like, okay, you just danced to Uptown Funk and you took off your shirt.
Yeah.
Now I have to watch you keep doing that for 2 minutes. Or when I watch a cooking show on TV and I'm like, really? Like, I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes to watch you make one thing. These guys have 6 different culinary challenges. They have to make things, the longest they have to make perfection is 7 minutes. That's the longest challenge, you know, and in the middle of that one, they get a surprise challenge thrown at them.
Oh, great.
So
yeah.
It's very, very fast paced. And that's, you know, what Chef Patrick and I wanted. We wanted something different than your usual cooking show where we're stretching it out because it's TV and because we're trying to sell commercials. This is live, in your face, fast, you know, 2 hours is not enough. We wish we had more time to give you all that we got to give you.
Yeah, it sounds so fast-paced, and the fact that it is interactive is kind of scary because there's a lot of X factors. A lot of things could go this way or that way, especially with all the people coming from the audience to participate. There's food involved, there's cooking involved. Do you expect there to be any kind of potential for, I don't know, massive, you know, disruption of the show, the flow of the show with all these X factors?
We want it to be disruptive in a way. I mean, we want the audience members to be stars of this show. So in many ways, it's been designed to be your show. So it's, Chef Salvatore Matucci from Napoli, Italy, the son of fishermen. A fisherman, one fisherman and one fisher. What's your fisher mama? I guess, I don't know. But you know, he's amazing, and he has so many skills. In Naples, they have a tradition of the male hairdresser. It's a very masculine profession in Naples, Italy, and it's handed down, you know, from grandfather to father to son. And so we're going to learn a lot about different cultures and about different people. And I just think it's so exciting. But hold on, yeah, he'll do that. Sometimes my train of thought goes,
okay.
What were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking about things kind of going awry with all of the audience participation.
Did that seem like anything went awry? No, we just get right back to it. But no, you know, I think we want the audience to come in. And, you know, someone might come on the stage who's a better cook than the chef, and they might take over the challenge, and that's fine. We want that to happen. But you know, it is structured in that the time's always going to run out on a challenge, and it's always going to be time for judgment. So you know, the tournament structure exists. The challenge is announced. They have this much time to complete it. The audience members come up. They all do it together. Clock's over. Time is up. And you know, I think every audience is going to have their favorite chef. They want to help these guys out. They want to see these guys succeed. So I doubt an audience member is going to get up and be like, I'm going to mess up your station.
Yeah,
you know, I think there's going to be a real feeling of competitive community. But the dances are really, really intense. And all of the chefs have to learn all of the dance numbers because they have to know, you know, if in the event of losing, they will have to do it.
Right.
So I've been kind of sitting in, you know, on some of them. And the energy when these guys dance around you is palpable. And, you know, I designed this show. I was there when Chef Patrick was doing the choreography. I've seen it a million times, but it wasn't until I sat in the chair and these guys are right next to me doing these incredible moves. And, you know, I could touch them if I want to, you know, but even without touching them, it's like, oh my God, I feel adrenaline and this sense of creative wonder, you know, being that close. So I think it's going to be very, very special, because usually in these male review shows, it's either, okay, I'm just straight up, you know, grinding on you in a very generic way, or I'm on stage and I'm a god and you can't touch me. Yeah. This is more like, we're dancing with me. We are creating something in this moment. We are both artists in this moment.
It sounds so fun and so unique, this experience. I have sort of a nerdy, like, kind of production question, which is the logistics of doing a show like this where you're actually preparing food on stage. How is that like, I imagine you're gonna have to, like, someone has to go shopping in each town and buy some fresh
shopping
food
every morning, basically. So Chef Patrick decides kind of he knows what the challenges are going to be. He doesn't know what the ingredients are going to be, but he stocks his pantry with what he thinks would be fun for them to choose from. And so every time a chef wins a challenge and goes into the pantry, he has like 50 different things he could choose from. He does not know, the chefs don't know what's in the pantry until they go into it, though.
Gotcha.
So they only have like 20 seconds while we're getting the next judge to pick something that he knows he's good with, but that might stump his competitors, you know.
Any chance that you'll be using like local cuisine, you know, like quahogs in Rhode Island in February, or like lobsters?
Why don't you send me a list? Send me a list of things.
Okay, I'll send you a list. Some coffee milk. Yeah, I got a list for you.
What's a quahog?
A quahog, yes. It's like a really huge clam.
Ooh, I think Chef Patrick would be into that.
All right.
Bring up the.
All right, yeah. There's a lot of very specific Rhode Island delicacies I could clue you in on.
Thank you. I'd love that.
So the show is coming to the Vets on February 18th. It sounds like an absolute blast. I could talk to you all day about this, actually. So
I hope you come to the show. I'll be there.
Oh, really? I would love to. You know, definitely everyone go to thevetsri.com. We'll also have the information on golocalprov.com for tickets and info. Rosalind Hart, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about this really fun new tour.
I can't wait to see you, Providence.
We're going to take a very quick pause to set up for my next guest. Please stick around. Hi everyone, welcome back to Go Local Live. I'm Ava Gaudette, and up next in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, I will be talking to someone who has the honor of keeping George Balanchine's legacy alive by sharing his choreography with various companies, and the Festival Ballet here in Rhode Island has the honor of being one of those companies. This is Sandra Jennings. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a really amazing thing for Festival Ballet and for Rhode Island. We are one of 2 companies in New England who has this honor. So, for anyone who may not know George Balanchine, if you are not dance savvy, he is an extremely famous choreographer and dancer who was sort of dubbed, you know, the creator of American ballet.
Yes, he was.
And you had the honor of actually being one of his dancers and dancing with him. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like? Did you know that you were dancing with a living legend at the time?
Well, sort of a long story, but when I was a little girl, my mom took me to see the New York City Ballet. I was 10 years old, and I said to my mom, I want to dance for the person that made these ballets, and that's how I found out about George Balanchine. I knew right away what a genius he was and that I had to do his work. So I made it my goal to get to New York to his School of American Ballet so that I could dance with him. I knew what a genius he was. I think that I would never have known how important he was going to be to my life at that time.
Yeah, this has turned into now a lifelong process for you as a dancer and choreographer and teacher, that you now have the honor of being part of the George Balanchine Trust, yes. Using his choreography, teaching his choreography, and making sure that the dancers who are doing it are staying true to his
yes.
intentions.
His intentions, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
So how has that been now after his death, and you are taking part in preserving his legacy, really?
Well, I had been doing this a long time. I stopped dancing rather young for a number of personal reasons, and I was lucky enough to have Patricia McBride and Jean-Pierre Bonfou, who were very famous dancers with New York City Ballet, start me staging. And this was actually before the Balanchine Trust had been formed. It was formed a few years after his death. So he died in 1983, and I started staging his works in 1985. So that was a while ago. But I started slowly. I did one work one summer, and I did a couple the next summer, and I found that I was actually good at it, and I remembered the work. And when the Balanchine Trust was formed, I started doing a little here and there. At that time, my son was very young, so I was a young mother. But eventually I worked at Pennsylvania Ballet, and when I was there as ballet master, I ended up staging over 35 ballets of Mr. Balanchine's.
Wow.
So and then I worked for San Francisco Ballet, where I continued staging, and shortly after I left, well, before I left, actually, I became a full-time repetitor with the George Balanchine Trust, which would have been 2006. So, and now I travel all over the world staging his works, and wow. I just have to say that I'm so happy to be here in Providence. I love the company here.
Oh, great. Come a little closer to me, just so we can. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No. It's a real jewel in the crown here, and I hope that people get to see the performances here, because it's a great company. And actually, it's not easy to get a Balanchine ballet. You have to go through a whole process.
Right.
And Festival Ballet has been doing them for many years, and I think that's because of the leadership of the company, of Misha Zurich, and also the fine dancing. I often speak with the people who run the Balanchine Trust about this company, and everyone is always so sort of amazed at such a small company being able to produce the ballet so beautifully.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I love coming here.
Well, we love having you. Thank you. So the show that you came for is it's this weekend, 9th through the 11th. It's called Director's Choice. There are 3 different pieces, one of them being Rubies, which is the George Balanchine piece that you set for them. What can you tell us about Rubies, the piece?
Well, Rubies is actually a part of a trilogy. It's a ballet that George Balanchine created in 1967, I believe, and it's called Jewels, and there are 3 different sections of Jewels. The opening section is Emeralds, which is to music by Fauré, and it's French, and it was done for a French ballerina, Violette Verdi. And then the second ballet is Rubies, which is the one we're doing. and that was to Stravinsky music, and it has a very sort of American jazzy style. The man it was Edward Villela, who was a great ballet star in the 1960s. He actually, I think he really changed the way that Americans looked at male dancers, because he was such a guy. He had
very
been
athletic.
Oh yeah, he'd been a boxer,
right.
and he had this phenomenal jump, and he could jump like over 5 feet up, and
crazy.
So Balanchine created for he and Patricia McBride, and she was like the all-American. She always says I was a showgirl. You know, she was so gorgeous. And so he's kind of like a jockey, and he's doing all these steps, sort of showing off for her, and she does all these long leggy steps, and there's wonderful patterns with the corps de ballet. They create like patterns where they look like jewels, and the movement is all jazzy, which means, you know, you have a lot of hip movement. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but, you know, there's
we get the idea.
And there's all these jazzy arms, and it has a real American flavor. And then the last ballet was Diamonds, which he did for the great Suzanne Farrell and Jacques d'Amboise, who were like our two iconic dancers of the company, and that was to Tchaikovsky music. So we're doing the centerpiece of the ballet, and it's it has such an American feel to it, even though Stravinsky was Russian and Balanchine was Russian, but they loved America. Balanchine, I actually was at a talk last night in New York where Edward Villela, Jacques d'Amboise, and Arthur Mitchell, who founded Dance Theater of Harlem, he was the first African-American dancer that danced with the New York City Ballet, and Balanchine created a lot of roles for him, three amazing, great men. And they were talking about rubies, and Edward was talking about rubies, and they showed a little clip of the original, and it's just such an important ballet. And they were talking about how Balanchine used to, Arthur Mitchell was saying he used to go up to Harlem to hear jazz because he really loved it, and he would incorporate moves and talk to Arthur about, well, how do you do this movement? And Arthur had been a tap dancer, so it's really interesting history. It's a ballet that a lot of companies want to do well, but I think you have to have a certain style and sort of American flavor to do it. And I've staged it in Russia, and they've done really well, but it's really hard for them.
That's interesting to kind of find it in their body too.
Yeah, and in Europe, I think it's such an American ballet. So I think that this company in particular is really doing an amazing job with it, and they're loving it, and it's been such a treat to teach them, because, you know, it's so nice when you come in the studio and everybody's happy.
Of course,
and people are like, oh, she's here again, you know. It was like, it's a nice thing.
I bet. Oh my, well, it's such an honor, and knowing that this doesn't happen for every company. You know, like you said, it is a process to even get the opportunity to perform this material. So yeah, I'm sure they're all extremely honored to be a part of it, and the choreography is amazing. I saw a little clip of it, and very interesting, very stylized.
Yeah,
and
stylized, geometrical. There's first of all, it's Stravinsky music, which is very complex, and they actually have to learn. We have to learn the ballet with counts, because you know, you actually can start to hear the ballet, but when you're teaching it and learning it, you need counts, and certain steps are on a certain count. And, you know, especially for the corps, because they have to be together. They have to arrive at the same time. And Balanchine was such a genius with music. And I would say, you know, he was not just the most important choreographer of the 20th century. I'd say he was the most important choreographer of all time. He was so prolific. You know, before him was, of course, Petipa, who was a great choreographer from the 19th century. But what's interesting about Balanchine is he didn't think about the future. He really lived in the moment, and he never really thought about his ballets going on, and yet I can't tell you how many companies are dancing these ballets. And but this particular ballet has not been done in this area for a while. I staged Jules at Boston Ballet, and I think it was at least 5 years ago.
Wow.
So it's really wonderful that Rubies is getting done again, because it needs to be performed in order to have a life. And so I'm thrilled that they're doing it.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful program. Obviously, this piece sounds like a real treat for the audience to be able to see.
I think everyone will love it. That curtain goes up and you see all the gorgeous girls in their red little costumes, and the men are beautiful, handsome men, and it's very masculine and sexy for the women, but fun sexy, you know, nothing provocative. It's really, it's nice.
What do you feel is the most important thing, if you can sort of narrow it down to one thing? I'm sure there are a lot of things that is specific to Balanchine's style that you feel strongly about preserving.
Well, there's so many things, but I want to bring up, Jacques d'Amboise told this story last night, and in describing Balanchine, and I think it really does describe him, because each of the men talked about this, and he said, you know, if you met Balanchine and he knew you, say he was having a wonderful dinner, and he was sitting at the table with his friends, and you'd come in the room and you might say, hello, Mr. B, or hello, Mr. Balanchine, and he would get up. He never sat. He always got up to shake your hand and, oh dear, how are you? And he wouldn't say, why don't you join us? He would get a chair and say, please let me get the chair so that you could join us. He was about manners, and it's like from another time, because he was born in 1904. He would talk to the men how you offer your hand, and the girls how they take the hand. And you can see that when you watch a Balanchine ballet. There's a definite sense of another time, a style, a way of behaving with each other. He was a real, true gentleman, and you see it in his ballets. Yeah, and that's, I think, I always, when I see men like over partnering, or like they take the girl, I'm like, no, offer the hand, and then she takes, and that's a real iconic feature of Balanchine's work. There's a ballet called Agon, which is also Stravinsky, which he did in the 1950s, with a famous pas de deux for Tanaquil Leclerc and not Tanaquil, I'm sorry, for Diana Adams and Arthur Mitchell. It was the first time that a black man and a white woman danced together. It was really a big deal. Wow. But the music was incredible. But Balanchine's wife, Tanaquil, had just contracted polio, and she was in a wheelchair. And he was having to manipulate her body in a certain way. And when you see this pas de deux, you see that kind of how he used what was happening in his life. And it's the same kind of thing with how you'll see even in Ruby's, how they take each other. He really was so aware of those kind of details, and I think it's really important that when we pass the ballets down that we talk about that and remind the dancers. So
it's just that extra element that really makes it genuine to what he was trying to do.
And of course, the musicality, the speed, the energy, and bringing yourself to the performance. Each person brings themselves. No one has to be somebody else, which I think is really great.
It sounds so beautiful, and again, I feel Rhode Island is so fortunate to have this opportunity. Festival Ballet, wonderful company, and the program is called Director's Choice. It is this weekend, February 9th through 11th. There'll be more information at golocalprov.com for tickets and other performances in the program. Sandra, thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, and the rest of the program is terrific.
Yes, there's other exclusive.
Chris Wheeldon's The Americans it's like seeing a Carousel or some romantic Broadway show. And it's The Soldier's Tale.
Yes, and The Soldier's Tale, which is a world premiere performance. Also right here in Rhode Island. Yes. Yeah. It sounds truly wonderful. So definitely go check it out if you can. And thank you again, Sandra. We're going to take another quick pause to set up for the next guest. Stick around.
All right.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Go Local Live. I'm Ava Gaudette, and up next in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center, my good friend Matthew Wexler from the Broadway blog, giving us some Broadway news. Matthew, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ava? Happy February, the month of love.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy February to you too.
Thank you.
So we have so much to talk about today. Spring is coming. So many new shows happening. You have sort of mapped out 3 to see this spring. Let's start with your first selection.
Yeah, well, I thought as we chatted this week that it would be interesting to sort of look at shows through the lens of performers versus the production itself, although they're interesting in and of itself. But I think sometimes when we go to the theater, sometimes we're going to see a production and sometimes we're going to see a personality or someone that we've just fallen in love with their work. So there's 3 performers this season that are coming back to Broadway that I, for the most part, I'm just infatuated with their work. The first one is Jessie Mueller, which is probably of the 3 a name least familiar to people outside of the Broadway New York theater scene.
Right.
But Jessie is a Chicago girl, and she comes from a theater family. Her father, Roger Mueller, has been an actor in Chicago for decades. Her mom, Jill, was an actor as well and then had kids and has since returned to acting. So Jessie actually has 3 siblings. She has a sister, Abby, and 2 brothers, and all of them are actors, and all of them are working, which is amazing to me. They have really good luck, and they're talented.
Yeah.
But Jessie is going to be starring in the revival of Carousel, Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, which first appeared on Broadway in 1945. I was doing a little bit of digging, and I was like, I wonder how many Tony Awards Carousel won when it first opened. Would you care to take a guess?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start. I'll say 3.
0.
Oh.
And the reason why is that the Tony Awards didn't even exist until 1947.
I'm
Trick
great
question.
at math, so.
Yeah. So the Tony Awards, although the show was still running in 47, the Tony Awards were obviously acknowledging new shows that opened. But Jessie's fantastic, and I first saw her work, at least in New York, in a revival of On a Clear Day You Can See Forever with Harry Connick Jr., which was not a very good production, but she was just this burst of sunshine. I think she was actually nominated for a Tony Award. She just had these amazing vocals, and she has since gone on and done a number of things. She won a Tony Award for Beautiful, the Carole King musical. She did Waitress, which I know you saw this past year with another performer, but she was incredible in that.
I'm sort of obsessed with the original Broadway soundtrack that, of course, she is on, and her voice is just so beautiful and so unique and sort of different sounding than a typical sort of Broadway voice. I mean, she can literally sing anything, but I feel like the choice to use her in this show is sort of cool. Like, this always kind of, in my mind, was a very traditional musical theater piece, and she's sort of on the other side of things, so that combination sounds pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, well, you know, she did a production a few years ago. Maybe it was when she was in Chicago, and she played, what is the other female role? The one that Audra McDonald won a Tony Award for. Carrie Pepperidge?
I don't know.
She played the other role. So, so now she's playing the main. Yeah. And so she's great, and I'm excited to see her. She's playing opposite Joshua Henry in that, and I think they're going to be great. So I can't wait to see her hit the stage. So that's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is another Chicago actress, actually, Laurie Metcalf, who is one of the original members of Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Laurie, I think TV viewers probably know her most from Roseanne.
Yes, of course.
And then she also did this amazing, it's so funny. I don't know if you ever watched Getting On, which was I don't know, there were maybe 3 seasons of it. She played this really sort of narcissistic geriatric doctor, like in a geriatric ward of a hospital.
Right.
She's so good.
And
awesome. She's also
so
nominated for an Oscar this year for Lady Bird, and she's brilliant in that movie. She's so good. So she's coming to Broadway with 2 other actresses in a revival of Edward Albee's 3 Tall Women, which won the Pulitzer Prize. It's a little difficult to describe this play. It's basically 3 women at 3 different ages and sort of their interactions and their individual courses through their lives. But I guess she's tall. I don't know how tall Laurie Metcalf is. I do know she's a great actress, and what
great.
I love about her is that she is kind of like a hot wire. I first saw her actually when I lived in Chicago. She was doing a play at Steppenwolf called My Thing of Love, which eventually moved to Broadway for a short-lived run. It's kind of this modern contemporary drama, and she was swinging around this oar, kind of like batting up the stage. So she's a live wire, and you never quite know what you're gonna get from her. She's a very spontaneous, kind of combustible actress. So I'm excited to see her in this production.
Yeah, I agree with you with her. Everything she does is exciting. I feel like she's so versatile. She really is so genuine in her roles. And you mentioned she's great at accents. She's great at these sort of character-y roles, but she really is so believable. You just forget the separation between the actor and the character with her.
I agree. There's this level of, and I'm sure it's rehearsed, but it is a tribute to her acting, this level of kind of raw spontaneity that you never quite know what you're going to get from her. Last year, she actually won a Tony Award last year for A Doll's House Part 2, which was this terrific sort of extension riff on Ibsen's A Doll House, sort of what happens after Nora leaves and she comes back. And it's a very, very funny play, and she was really spectacular. So I think she's going to be something to see in this production as well.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then the third, we talked about this production the last time we spoke, and this is a really, everyone loves this guy. Nathan Lane in Angels in America. Let's talk about this, because everyone knows him as this comedian. He's so funny, and Angels in America being such serious subject matter in some ways.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think when I was thinking about who I wanted to touch upon in terms of performers, and we quickly talked about Angels in America last time, but I started giving it some more thought. And Nathan Lane, I mean, it's miraculous. The guy has done this. I think it's going to be his 22nd Broadway show.
God, that's insane.
That's a lot of Broadway shows.
Yeah, that's a lot of Broadway shows.
Yeah.
How does
and
that,
to your
anyone
point,
have time?
many of them have been musicals and comedies, and I've always said that the mark of a truly good actor or actress is somebody who can play comedy because they understand timing, and they understand relationship, and they understand the context of the world of a play. So I think oftentimes comedic actors don't get the credit where credit is due. And the same thing goes for the Oscars and comedy films. Oftentimes those performances in those films don't get the acknowledgement that kind of a heavyweight film might get. So Nathan has won Tony Awards for the producers, and a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum. But he did this role at the National Theatre in London and got raves for it, and he's playing the role again when he comes back to New York City. And Roy Cohn was this visceral, really son of a bitch, if I can use that word. I mean, he's a really challenging attorney. During the McCarthy era, he was part of the Lavender Scare, a group of politicians and influencers who were going after the LGBT community. And Roy eventually died of AIDS, and to his deathbed, he said he had liver cancer. He never admitted to his relationship with men. So there's so many complexities going on there, both in terms of the man and the context of where it fits into our culture and our society historically. And I think he's going to be great. I saw Nathan in It's Only a Play a few years on Broadway, which was a revival of this Terrence McNally play, which was okay, but it was that performance where someone really kind of transcended the material, and I just thought this guy is really something magical. So I'm excited to buckle in for that show. If people are interested in coming to New York to see it, you should know that it's 2 parts. It really is, it's epic. And each part is
so many hours of theater.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours. Yeah. So, get some coffee.
Pack a snack.
And pack a snack and come to New York to see it. So you need to buy tickets for both parts, Millennium Approaches and Perestroika. And you'll be committing to probably 7 hours of theater. Brilliant theater. Yes. But 7 hours, nevertheless.
So there's also some really cool things happening off Broadway, some smaller productions that are really fun and unique. Let's talk about a couple of them.
Yeah.
This one called Miles for Mary sounds really funny. I don't know. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so I saw two shows in the past week that are running through the spring. Miles for Mary started with a company called the Mad Ones, which is located in Brooklyn, and they have sort of this collaborative performance development like production style where my guess would be that they sort of improvise around certain themes and then end up with a script. I actually did get to see the script because I reviewed it for the Broadway blog, and even though you feel like you're watching something improvisational, every little minor detail is written down. It's so meticulous.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and in short, it basically takes place in this high school teachers' lounge in Ohio in the 1980s. And it's a group of teachers and guidance counselors who are pulling together a marathon to raise money for Mary. Mary was probably a student who passed away and by some demise, and it's sort of to honor her. But for anyone that's ever sat in any kind of meeting in an office or a school or whatever the case may be, and you have to deal with personalities, this sort of explodes that idea in a really funny and also a very touching and kind of heartfelt way. Really, really good.
Yeah,
Laugh
sounds
out
really
loud
cool.
good. People who are fans of Christopher Guest movies like Waiting for Guffman, films like that, I think would really, really get their jam on with this show.
Yeah.
And it was just extended. So if you're coming to the city this month, it's running through February 25th. Yeah.
Cool. So still a little time to catch that one.
Yes.
All right, what else do we have here? In the Body of the World. What is this one?
Yeah, well, In the Body of the World just opened last night at Manhattan Theater Club. It started actually at American Repertory Theater. It was directed by Diana Paulus, and it is written and starring Eve Ensler. So Eve Ensler, one of her many claims to fame, because she's an incredible actress and acted this, is the Vagina Monologues. Right. So she's very much been focused much of her professional life on sort of empowering women and issues surrounding that. This particular play uses the framework of her cancer diagnosis that she had probably 5 or 6 years ago. She's diagnosed with stage 3 cancer and went through extensive treatment for that. But it really is about her relationship with her body, her relationship with the world. She's done a lot of work in the Congo for women who have been raped and lots of other societal issues happening in Africa. Also her relationship with her mother and her relationship with her sister. And it's these series of, I mean, the whole thing is a long monologue. At one point, I'm going to sound like my father, but I was like, how does she remember all these lines? Like, it really is an epic journey. Wow. And so natural and so funny, and her observations are so keen in some kind of way, like flipped in an unusual way. So I think, for anyone who's interested in that kind of performance, it's an absolute must-see. It really blew me away. It runs through March 25th. And I should also say, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name correctly, Myung-hee Cho is the set designer. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to give it away. I mean, you think you're going to see a one-person off-Broadway show and it's going to be like a chair.
Right.
And there is a chair. There's also a love seat. But there is this spectacular transformation that happens on stage at the end of the show where the audience actually is kind of invited to become part of it. I know that sounds so cryptic, but if you can come to New York and see it, you'll understand what I mean. Or my review will be live tonight on the Broadway blog, and you can read that. I'm not going to give it away, though.
Perfect. Yeah, no spoilers. No, I love this. I love getting recommendations for things like this because usually one-person shows are just this kind of enigma to me. I always wonder, what is that experience really going to be like? There's a lot of sort of cliche things that people do in one-person shows, but it sounds like this is really unique and really powerful, and I definitely appreciate the recommendation on this one.
Yeah, I think there's a parallel too between Angels in America, which won the Pulitzer Prize, and Eve's show. And I think what's appealing about both of them, although they're very different, Angels is going to be this theatrical spectacle, and Eve's show, except for the final moments, is really just one woman talking, is that it looks at a subject matter in a really intimate way and also sort of blows it out so you can see it in a perspective that is much bigger than the individual. And I think that's the mark of some really great theater and great writing.
Yeah. We don't have too much time, but I definitely want to touch upon this. This is why I love talking to you, Matthew, because you tell me about things that have not been on my radar. But the Tina Turner musical, I didn't know this was happening.
I know.
First of all, who doesn't love Tina Turner? She's the most amazing woman.
You have to love her.
What do you know about this?
Well, not too much besides that it's opening on the West End this spring. Previews start March 21st, and it is a biopic about her life. So there are a lot of shows that are happening these days that use the music of a particular performer, maybe not in the context of their lives. But the Tina Turner musical is about Tina. They did this, nationwide search or worldwide search to find someone to play Tina Turner. I'm sure she's going to be amazing. So
big shoes to fill, though. I mean,
huge shoes. Jessie. It's a much different kind of performance. I was just thinking of Jessie, who won a Tony Award for Carole King.
True. Yeah.
Very, very different than Tina Turner, but challenging nonetheless.
And still sort of like to have to play a performer who is still alive.
Right.
Beautiful. I'm thinking of On Your Feet as well, and now the Tina Turner. It's sort of a lot of pressure.
It is. And speaking of musicians this isn't even on our list, but as we wrap up,
sure.
I was at an event last week, and there's a new Go-Go's musical coming to New York. I want to say it's starting on the West Coast, maybe at La Jolla, and then it's supposed to transfer to New York sometime this summer, directed by Michael Mayer. And that uses the music of the Go-Go's, who I am a huge fan of, but it is not the Go-Go's life. So it's this entirely fantasy-driven, he described it, because I went to this preview event, where the Go-Go's were playing live. And, by the way, they sound absolutely incredible.
I love
They
that.
sound so good. I was like, when are the Go-Go's going to go back on tour?
They should.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Okay, we'll have to learn more about that as that develops.
That's a teaser. It's like a dangling theatrical carrot for you.
Right. Exactly. Well, Matthew, thank you so much once again from the Broadway blog. If you want to get more info on the shows that he has reviewed there, we'll also have some info on GoLocalProv.com. Matthew, thank you so much. It was so wonderful talking to you again.
As always, you too.
That is my show for today. Be sure to tune into Kate Nagel at the 4 p.m. hour with news and politics. And I'll be back next Tuesday. Thanks so much. See you soon.